yeah, your identity as a human being, even as a Nigerian, in Nigeria. So the bigger issues that were at play when our, older writers wrote have like kind of diminished. So we don't have those big issues of independence, of, Marxism and whatever. These are more personal issues. So I think the politics that come out in our works are different. And then now you begin to have all this sectarian violence. So that is also beginning to come out in our issues, LGBT issues, they're coming up. So it's a different kind of politics we're writing about. It's still politics because everything is political, but it's different. So I think that we are still engaging with issues, but not on that strident, fiery level that people had in those days. For somebody said, challenges of bringing the city to life. The biggest challenge for me is sitting down to actually write, because it's difficult. Living in a city and writing in a city is difficult because of all the issues that you have to go through every day. Get up in the morning to go to work, come back in the evening, so you have to find some time to do it. Which takes me to your own. So for me, I have a mobile phone, and most mobile phones have speakers. You can speak into them. So when I'm driving, when I'm writing a book, and I'm driving, and I hear something in my mind that a line comes to me, I just, speak it into my phone. I also have a midget that I carry around. So those things help because a line can come to you in the middle of nowhere. There's no pen, there's no paper. You don't want to lose that line. And that line can form the whole core of a story or of a book. So when they stole my phone, that was what I was looking for. It wasn't because of the phone. It was for those gems in that phone that made me know, like, damn, I can't lose this. So language. Yeah, the thing about language is this. I write so that people can enjoy what I write. It doesn't mean that what I write is simple. There are two different things here. The things you read that are easy to read are the most difficult to write, because that means you've gone through it over and over again. People don't see that. They think it's easy because you wrote it easily. It's not true. So I want to make that distinction that things that seem easy on the page are actually the most rigorous to produce. For my own case, that's how I say it. So.
Okay, so thank you. I'll start with the question of privilege and the ills of the society, whether we're too concerned with the ills of the society. I think we live in a world where the dominant idea is post-structuralist thinking. So all those great certainties, whether it's state, whether it's the anthropological certainties of whether a black man is a human being, and all of that, these have been broken down over the last 40, 50 years into extremely personal concerns. What is my place in society? Am I being taken for myself? Do you love me for me or because I'm this? So we've had an increasingly personal space, personal level interactions with the society itself. And like Tony Khan has said, this has also informed our literature as well. So So I on the other hand, I'm partial. I understand why writers like Chinua Achebe, why they had to write the way they wrote. They wrote it within their own historical position, and they engaged with their society as they had to at that time. And while I recognize that I am a descendant of this type of writers, while I recognize the importance of their writing, I am not beholden to their writing, because I do not expect my descendants to be beholden to my writing either. It's like my grandfather has a house he built or something, and my father inherits it and I inherit it. And then I cannot blow it to bits and build something else because my grandfather built it. No. My grandchildren can feel free to break what I build, but in the course of my life and interacting with my society, I must be able to question the fundamental bricks of which that society is built. So in that sense, yes, that is the privilege, but I like to think that's the privilege that each generation claims for itself, to destroy what came before and build anew, and tomorrow someone will destroy yours. Okay, challenges. The challenges of writing about a city. It's the city itself. It's the pressures of the city. It's things like the electricity going off while you don't have a laptop, and that good writing, you've been punching the keys for 2 hours. Suddenly, when the electricity comes back, it's all gone. It's that sometimes you have a great idea in your head and the phone is dead, and you have to get to the laptop is dead, you have to go to the other end of town. It's the pressures of the city. And increasingly, when I wrote City of Memories, I was quite young and I had quite a lot of time. But these days, you have several jobs that you do, you have several pressures, you've already sold huge chunks of your time. So finding the time to actually sit down and punch the keys becomes increasingly difficult.
Let's go to this question on the tips quickly.
Yeah, okay. On the tips and the tools, well, I use the basic tools. I use the voice notes on my phone. I leave myself voice notes. If there's something, Hemingway app. There's this little app called Hemingway, and there's the tendency to write these really, really long sentences. There's the tendency to use all the adjectives and adverbs. So what the app does is to highlight those things, and then when I see them, then I consider, is there a particular reason why this sentence is the way it is? If there's an artistic reason, of course, I retain it. But the Hemingway app lets you know, okay, this is what you're doing on a skill. So those are the 4 basic tools that I use.
Okay, we'll go to the lady over there, and then we'll take one more question after that.
Good morning. I have 2 questions for the both writers. But I have a comment first on what Tony Khan said. In the course of your discourse, you said in your story there was a man that located the cities, but he got lost because he didn't find the houses. So now my question is, as a budding writer, like myself and others, how can I balance the facts and fictions in my narrative? That is, how should I balance that, okay, this is a non-fictional writing and this is a fictional writing? Because it's possible the characters might be fictional, but the events and happenings are non-fictional. Then my second question is on language. In poetry, we have what you call prosaic language. So my question is, in prose, do we have anything like poetic language? Thank you.
Sorry, there's a gentleman there. Can you just pass the microphone to him? And then.
Yeah, I thought that, responding to what Tony said, I thought that the beauty of writing, or in my case, painting, is that my work can reach out to a variety of people, irrespective of their culture, their background, and whatever. So I'm worried about the idea of Africanist approach to the way we address certain issues. The other issue also has to do with, reality. What's real, really? I think it has to do with your ability to connect with it. It's not just physical as well. So an abstract work can be as real as a representational or realistic work.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to take this last question. Please, we would like you to be as quickly as possible with your answers. We'd also like you to be very quick with your last question.
Okay, I've been raising my hand since the beginning of time, but I'll be brief. I'm a literary critic. I'm not a writer. I'm a professional literary critic. And I know Tony Khan has been a literary character for a long time. He's not just a writer. I remember, what's that book? Waiting for an Angel, Helen Habila. You were at the dinner shortly before the writer figure left the country. I think I'm right in that regard. So when you speak as a writer and also as a character, so that's why I was
He's here as a writer.
So why I was surprised when we were talking about big words and not big words, because I know you to be a man of big words. So as a literary critic, I have to speak for that. But the main thing I want to talk about, already, I think Sule already addressed it. I'll just mention the city. Why is the city important now for writers? Teju Cole, Chimamanda, DJ, all of them from top to bottom. All the novels, they're about cities and cities. One thing I keep looking for is that perhaps the city allows you, maybe you guys can enlighten me in this regard, I'm just a literary critic, is that the cities allows you to breach the series breaches things, whether identity, regional, or anything. So that's just your viewpoint on that regard.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's how I balance it. I don't mix them up, because you don't want to, mistakenly put in a character and then you get sued, But then if you're going to put your story in a place that is real, so you have to be careful also how you do it. They don't write things about somebody who is real, in a novel that can get you into trouble. But apart from that, all else is really good. There's poetic language. There's poetic language in prose. Yeah, there are people who write whose novels read almost like poetry. There's a guy I like very much. His name is Jim Chris. He's very good. He does very good writing. And Uncle Ben Okri, his book, African Appropriation: What is Real? There are some writers like Diaz, his book. He has lots of footnotes telling you what he's talking about in Mexico or whatever. So he gives you those footnotes. But how many times do you read an American writer giving you footnotes, of what he's talking about, or a friend, or But we want to do that for them. So we're saying now we just write our stories. If I put, he was washing her. It's your business. Go and think maybe he put her in the laundry machine and turned it on. You figure it out. From the story you can tell, there was this argument between the fisherman, what's his name, and Egosa, and about, how you write a story and try to explain. How much do you explain? What do you need to explain? If you like the book enough to invest some money in it, invest some time to also understand what the book is about, the context in which it's written from. We know about New York. We have never been there because of books we've read. So let them know about Ajegunle too and figure it out. What's the last one? Yeah, big words. So I can wear several hats. I write poetry, I write fiction, I also write essays. And each one compels me to act in a certain way. But when it comes to the things I want people to spend their money and buy and read, I want them to enjoy it in a way that doesn't give them too much distractions. So what I write will inevitably gravitate towards as simple as possible for you to enjoy it. But when I'm writing my essays, I'm writing for people who it's like a coded environment, and I write to those people, and they will enjoy it too on that point. When I write for This Day and I write for Wasafiri, there are two different languages I'm going to use, because these are two different audiences I'm writing to. So, and that, I think, is the beauty of being a good writer, the ability to adapt to things. Whichever one calls, you can adapt to it. I don't want somebody to write the same thing for every book he writes, every magazine he writes for. That would be very boring. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll take it quickly. The first thing about the balance between fact and fiction, I side with Tony Khan. If you're writing factually, like if you're writing journalism, then there are rules of ethics that guide journalistic outputs. And if you're writing fiction, you can always, there are liberties that you can take with fiction. So it's important not to get both of them mixed. But in the events that you want to write creative nonfiction, then I think the most important consideration is this. The creative part of the creative nonfiction, is it likely to cause offense to other people? In writing your book as a creative nonfiction writer, are you going to cause offense to somebody whose life, without understanding it, without perhaps being able to give them the round treatment, will you injure them? Because if you, I think that when you arrive at the world stage as a subject of somebody's anthropology, you have to be very, very careful with appropriating a universal voice. We are all black people here. We arrived at learning as the subjects of anthropology, of somebody else's anthropology, who came to study us and characterize us and label us and all of that. So we cannot approach the same authenticity, the same blaze sense of, oh, I'm a universal character, which in that very, very violent birth of the African on the world stage. We cannot do that. I see this thing, oh, I'm a world slaved. not the whole world winds up as early as the 60s. Soyinka goes to the United States and he's put in the anthropology department. Not the English department, but the anthropology department. And this continues even in the way bookshops are labeled today. So I am very, very wary of this sentimental universalization of art. We are Africans, we come from somewhere, there is a history. I'm not saying we should be beholden to it, but it should factor in whatever we do. The last thing is about the city, the importance of the city. Yeah, the city is a bridge. The city is a cosmopolis. People come from everywhere and try to become native. But sometimes, again, the reverse happens, which is that because you are away from where you are originally from, you create all these memorializations of the things from the home country or from the home ethnicity or whatever it is, and you try to bring them here. And you find out that the practices that where you are from have been forgotten, have been updated. You are in a different city, you are holding up to them as you remember them. And sometimes this is what creates these fissures, these tensions into which we smuggle all sorts of demagoguery, all sorts of politics, and this is what also explains why the city can both be a bridge and can also be a wall between people. Like in Plateau now, we have Christian slums, Muslim slums, Biram slums, Hausa slums. How do you do that in a city that is a cosmopolis? So the thing is, the city itself is a very various bird. And it's up to us to emphasize what parts of it are most beneficial and what parts of it will destroy us in the end of the day. I like to side with what is most beneficial for the most good of the most number of people.
Well, thank you very much for being here. Thank you to our guests, Tony Khan and Richard Ali. I hope the conversation has been as illuminating as it has been entertaining for you and for us as well. Thank you all so much. You can give yourselves a round of applause. Give them a round of applause. Thank you.
And a big round of applause for Miss Wanawana.